You walked past a small bird during your morning walk today. It flew away and you probably did not think much of it. For a human, this is just a minor subconscious fragment of the day. But for that tiny creature, a monumental decision was just made. Before you could even take another step, a complex process took place. The bird calculated your current speed and your exact direction. It detected whether your eyes were turned towards its branch. A complete assessment of potential danger was completed in less than a second. It did not make a random guess. It operated with cold and precise data. Most people assume that forest dwellers simply react to sudden noise or large size. We tend to think of them as simple biological sensors that react to a threshold. If a shadow appears, they run. If it is quiet, they stay. But modern research shows that the truth is far more complex. They do not just notice your presence in the forest. Over thousands of years, they have built a detailed model of what you are. And to almost every creature on this planet, you represent something unique. You are the most unpredictable factor that has ever existed in nature. This is not a metaphorical statement. This is a conclusion backed by cold scientific data. Every time you step on the grass, the environment registers a special event. The natural world immediately adjusts its inner processes. And this quiet background analysis never stops for a single moment. A unique experiment was conducted in the remote mountains of California. Scientists placed hidden audio devices along the wild animal trails. They wanted to see how different species react to various sounds. First, they played the neutral sounds of local frogs. The forest remained completely calm and no one moved. Then the devices played the sounds of apex predators like lions and wolves. The local deer and smaller mammals began to leave the area. But then the researchers played recordings of ordinary human conversations. The reaction was immediate and highly surprising for the scientific community. The forest dwellers fled much faster than before. They stayed away from their feeding grounds for a significantly longer time. The data showed they fear the quiet human voice more than the loudest growl. An apex predator is at the very top of its local food chain. A mountain lion has no natural rivals that evolved alongside it. Yet the sound of two humans talking about the weather sends it running. This behavior did not appear out of nowhere. Over thousands of years, a specific process took place on our planet. Our ancestors did not just compete with other species. They completely replaced the traditional rules of nature. Those species that survived are the ones that learned a specific rule. They learned to treat us differently from any other object in the world. But this interaction goes much deeper than simple avoidance. They do not just run away from your shadow. They actively study your behavior and remember your features. A famous study on a university campus involved researchers in specific masks. These masks were used during a brief and uncomfortable research procedure. After the birds were released, they remembered that specific face. Every time a person in that mask walked by, the birds raised an alarm. They did not react to other students or strangers on the path. They focused their collective attention only on that one specific image. But the most incredible event happened several years later. New young birds that were born long after the experiment began doing the same. They had never seen the original procedure or met the researchers. The information was transferred from parents to offspring through social learning. The birds built a permanent cultural memory of a specific threat. They passed this knowledge down to the next generation like a history lesson. Large mammals in Africa demonstrate an even higher level of analysis. They can distinguish between different groups of humans by their voice. One local tribe has a long history of conflict with the local wildlife. Another neighboring tribe living in the same area does not present any threat. When the large mammals heard the voice of the first group, they gathered together. They formed a defensive circle and quietly moved away into the deep bush. When the voice of the second group was played, they did not even interrupt their meal. They were not just reacting to a human being as a general concept. They were reading a specific file from their long-term cultural database. They knew exactly what kind of human was standing near them. This means that nature is running a continuous background process. Every single wild creature is constantly asking one question. What has this specific type of human done in the past? A massive global study analyzed data across multiple continents. The results published in major scientific journals shocked the experts. The mere presence of a human changes the global schedule of nature. Even if a human is not hunting or making any loud noises. Just the fact of our walking nearby forces animals to become active only at night. Species that naturally spent their day in the sun moved to the dark hours. They completely restructured their biological clocks just to avoid our eyes. This shift was 3 times stronger than the presence of any wild predator. We did not just change the physical landscapes of the earth. We managed to change the concept of time for the animal kingdom. And they did this without any single traumatic experience in their own lives. The information accumulated across generations and became the default setting. So what does the living world actually think when you walk past them? The answer is consistent across almost all wild species. They have analyzed your presence and placed you in a unique category. For them, you are something that has no equivalent in the history of life. A typical predator hunts only when it needs to satisfy its hunger. A wild predator has clear physical limits and is bound by its territory. True predators fit perfectly into the existing ancient system. But a human does not fit into any pre-existing template of nature. You have the power to alter the entire system and rewrite the rules. You show up in the forest and the concept of time itself shifts. The bird that flew away from you today was not being irrational. It was using a highly accurate ancient formula. This formula was written by its ancestors over thousands of years of contact. And the conclusion of that formula is always the same. Give this specific creature as much physical space as possible. Not because you are intentionally bad or want to cause harm, but because you are the only entity on Earth that requires a separate category. Nature had templates for disasters, diseases, and typical predators. But there was absolutely no template for the human mind. The creatures that still live around us are the ones that realize this in time. That is the quiet thought that follows you every time you step into the wild.